Hello everyone, and welcome to another remote sensing lecture video. And in this video, we're going to begin talking about what happens when the electromagnetic radiation that we've talked about so far actually hits something on the Earth's surface. Specifically, what we're talking about is this idea of interactions, right? What happens, what interactions occur between electromagnetic radiation and some object on the Earth's surface. And so, as always, I like to do these things with diagrams because I feel like they tell a really compelling story. So what I want to do is I want to start off our story today with the sun. So we start off, we have the sun. And the sun is the primary source of electromagnetic radiation when we're outside on Earth. Right? Most of the energy, right, electromagnetic radiation is just energy, right? Most of the energy on our planet comes from the sun. So we have the sun out there, and then on the Earth's surface, I always like to do this by talking about something that hopefully we all are familiar with, and that's the idea of a leaf. Right? So we've got the sun, we've got this leaf. And then coming from the sun, right, we have our energy, right? We have that electromagnetic radiation. Electromagnetic radiation. So what I want to do now is I want to focus in on this leaf for a second here. So we've got our leaf. We're going to look at it sort of lengthwise here. All right, so this is our leaf again. This is our leaf. I'm going to erase those lines actually because we don't want to get too confused. So we're now looking at our leaf from the side, and I just want to quickly go through what happens when this electromagnetic radiation hits the leaf. So we have the incoming electromagnetic radiation here. Right, I'm going to abbreviate that ER. So what can happen? Well, the first thing that can happen is it hits the leaf, and it bounces off. Right, it bounces off. And this bouncing off, this is called reflectance or reflection. Right? Reflection. The ER bounces, CES bounces off the object. That's the first thing that can happen. Right? The second thing that can happen is that the electromagnetic radiation simply passes completely through, right? You'll see that I did it in dotted lines so you can see the leaf still, as it just goes completely through, and it doesn't really do anything to the object at all. So this right here, when it just goes through, this is called transmission. Right, and in transmission, the ER goes through the object. Right, it goes through the object. And there's one more thing that can happen here. So it can either bounce off, it can go through, or it can be retained in the object. Right, so that's what this line here is doing. Right, it's being retained in the object to do something. And this retention here, this is called absorption. right? Absorption. And in absorption, the ER is retained. That says retained in the object, right? So rather than bouncing off, rather than going through, the ER is simply stored in the object and it does something. And one of the reasons I like to use leaves as this example is because hopefully everybody is familiar with this idea of photosynthesis, right? Where you have green leaves taking in carbon dioxide and water and using sunlight to convert that to energy and oxygen. Well, that energy that it's taking is this absorbed portion, right? It's this absorbed portion right here. This is the catalyst for photosynthesis. So in the case of a green leaf, and we're going to talk a lot more about what's called spectral response curves later, but for right now, when we look at a green leaf, right, at least in the visible spectrum, what's happening is the electromagnetic radiation's coming in, right? The green light is being reflected off, and that's why the leaf appears green to us. And the red and blue light are being absorbed in, right? And it's that absorbed red and green light that is catalyzing that photosynthetic reaction. So again, just to recap what happens, we have the sun producing electromagnetic radiation. That electromagnetic radiation hits something on Earth. It either bounces off in reflection, passes through in transmission, or it's absorbed into it and it does something in the case of absorption. And a good example of absorption here is that photosynthesis. So hopefully that made sense. If you have any questions, I strongly encourage you to pause the video, go back and rewatch whatever portion you're confused about. And as always, please reach out. Thank you.